Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. April 23rd, 2018.
The Kuhner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services. Cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
I'm back. Okay, the Kuhner man is back from a much needed and appreciated vacation. I was with the Bambinos and, of course, Grace in Aruba. Got a lot of sun. Little sunstroke, to be honest with you, but let that go. So the beach, I mean, it was a phenomenal vacation. Played in the pool. We were out there with the kids building sandcastles. Think I ate a little bit too much, but the Kuhner man is now back, refreshed, recharged, and tanned. Very tanned. Actually, kind of sunburnt tan, but let that go. Okay, my friends, a lot happened while I was gone, but to me, one of the big stories is what took place, in fact, just over the weekend down near Nashville, Tennessee. At the Waffle House, which is a popular chain, a gunman, aged 29 years of age, Travis Reinking, took a gun, an AR-15, in the early morning hours, waited in the parking lot, and then for no reason whatsoever, wearing only a green jacket, nothing else underneath, pulled out his AR-15 and began to indiscriminately shoot at patrons attending the Waffle House. Outside of the restaurant, 2 were immediately gunned down. Other bullets then sprayed into the windows. The gunman then walked right into the Waffle House and, picking them off like fish in a barrel, began shooting people left, right, and center. 4 confirmed dead. 4 others seriously wounded. They have been taken to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Now, had it not been for the actions of a hero, it may not be 4 dead, it could be 14 or even 24 dead. It would have been an absolute bloodbath. And what is even more shocking, listen to this. The shooter, we now know, was someone who had previously been arrested near the White House because he went into a restricted area. And so he had been arrested. The Secret Service arrested him. They seized all 4 of his guns, including the AR-15. What did they do with those guns? They gave them to his father. I swear to you. And then the father gave them back to the son. And that's how he possessed the AR-15 as well as the other guns that they found in his apartment. Now, had it not been for Jamal Shaw Jr., a patron at the restaurant, who heroically disarmed the shooter, Travis Reinking, apparently he was shot in the elbow. He then grabbed the barrel of the gun, which was red hot. That's how Jamal Shaw Jr. Sustained serious burn injuries. But he was able to wrestle the gun away from the shooter, who then took his green jacket off, I swear, I'm not making this up, and was literally nude, naked, and then ran off into the woods naked. The police are still engaged in a massive manhunt. It has now been over 24 hours. They are scouring the greater Nashville area. They believe that he may be armed because of the 4 weapons that were seized after he was arrested, being just outside the White House. They recovered 3 of them, but the pistol they have not recovered. So there is now an intense manhunt for a naked man who has shot 4 people dead and put 4 others in the hospital. Now, a couple of comments, and then I want to throw it open to you, Kuhner Country, who, by the way, I missed you during my vacation. I kept thinking about you during my vacation, but let that go. 617-266-6868. I'm reading this story, And I'm asking myself an obvious question. How the hell does the father give the guns back to his son after they were seized because he was in a restricted area and considered a potential danger to the president of the United States? That's point number one. Point number two, another mentally ill man, this with a fetish for running around naked in public, now gets his hands on guns. The link between mental illness and using deadly weapons, here it is again. But to me, the kicker that the mainstream media refuses to report, and this is an open secret, the Waffle House is a gun-free zone. That entire chain actively says and promotes that they do not want anybody inside their establishments, inside their restaurants, being able to carry a gun except for law enforcement. In fact, they are so adamant on this point that, for example, when one of their waitresses had a concealed carry permit several years ago, and there was a robbery in place at one of their establishments, she took out her gun and she foiled the robbery. Because she brought a concealed carry permit to work, she was fired even though she saved other people's lives. There was another incident in Charleston, South Carolina. Huge. That was another big media story, whereby an off-duty security guard who had a concealed carry permit was at one of the Waffle Houses in Charleston. There was another armed robbery taking place. The security guard tracked down the robber and shot him and basically saved God knows how many lives of the patrons, of the customers. The CEO of the Waffle House issued a statement saying that they do not want any guns in any of their restaurants, and he actually chastised the security guard who probably saved people's lives, saying, even though you're a security guard, the only people we want at our Waffle Houses to have guns are law enforcement. Outside of law enforcement, you should never have been at a restaurant with a gun. How stupid can you be to so publicly tell every robber, every murderer, every killer, every criminal, come down to the Waffle House because it's one mother gun-free zone? You want to come down and have an easy pickings? You want to make sure you get pretty much no resistance? Come on down, because the only people we want armed are the cops and the bad guys, certainly not the customers. Now, the media won't tell you this important story or this important angle to the story, because I will bet you dollars to donuts. I don't care how crazy Travis Reinking is. I don't care how many nudist colonies he attends. I don't care how much he loves to walk around naked and in the nude. He knew one thing. I hit the Waffle House, nobody's going to be shooting back. Listen now to the hero who was shot in the process, shot in the elbow. The poor guy got his hands all burned. Had he not been absolutely courageous and willing to put his body on the line, there could have been many more dead in Nashville, Tennessee. Listen now to Jamal Shaw Jr. describe what was taking place in that restaurant and why he did what he did. Roll it, Brittany.
At the time that he was either reloading or the gun jammed or whatever happened is when I ran through the swivel door. I hit him with the swivel door, and then the gun was kind of jammed up and it was pushed down, so we were scuffling. And I managed to get him with one hand on the gun, and then I grabbed it from him and I threw it over the countertop. I'm just a regular person, and I think anybody could have did what I did if they're just pushed in that kind of cage, and you have to either react or you're gonna fold. And I chose to react because I didn't see any other way of me, living. And that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to live.
Look, first of all, he's not an ordinary man. He is a hero. He's an incredibly brave man, a very courageous man. But more than that, he's an example to the Broward County Police. Because I want you to think, see, this is why the media doesn't like this story. The media, boy, usually it's got an AR-15, you've got shootings, but this one now, they don't want to follow it too intensely. Why? For the very obvious reason, my friends. Compare his actions to the cowards of Broward County. Sheriff Israel should be taking notes on how you actually defend people when there's a shooter in place. You see, unlike Sheriff Israel, unlike officer or former officer Scott Peterson, unlike the other cowards of Broward County, he didn't run the other way. He's not even a cop. He's just an ordinary guy, a civilian. He went and he engaged the shooter, and he did everything possible to disarm the shooter, unlike those cops in Parkland. So when all these liberals come out and say, faced with an AR-15, why would these cops have entered the building to take on Nicholas Cruz? They shouldn't have done that, even though the cops were armed to the teeth. Well, here's a guy, he's got nothing. No gun, no knife, no baseball bat, just literally his bare hands. And he was able to disarm this shooter at the Waffle House while the Parkland police did zero, zilch, absolutely nada, as that shooting took place. Now, the CEO of the Waffle House held a press conference on Sunday. Again, reiterating, I swear, this guy's unbelievable. Again, reiterating their gun-free zone policy. Again, saying, you got a weapon, you're not welcome. I don't care if it's legal, concealed carry. Only people we want with guns are law enforcement, who were obviously too late for the shooting, but let that go. And there's poor Jamal Shaw Jr. with the bandages all over his hands, because the poor guy burned his hands grabbing the barrel of the gun as he was disarming Travis Reinking, who got shot in the elbow. So there you got the guy. He's almost like served, 2 tours in Iraq. He's all shot up. And he walks over and he says, you're a real hero. And he gives him a hug. One big hug. Roll it, Brittany.
You saved people's lives. And I talked to some of those people you saved today. And they will think of you for the rest of their days, as will I. And we are forever in your debt. And grateful for the courage that you displayed taking care of your fellow man. And so I thank you.
That was Waffle House CEO Walt Emmer. You cheap skunk, you. You phony, you fraud, you. Number one, had it not been a gun-free zone, I doubt very much that Travis Reinking would have shot up that Waffle House. That's number one, but let that go. This guy just saved God knows how many lives in your establishment. Had he not acted the way he did, this would have been a bloodbath. 15 dead, 20 dead, 25 dead. And you just give the guy a little hug? How about free Waffle House for the rest of your life? How about, you know what, Jamal, for the rest of your life, you eat at the Waffle House for free, okay? Instead, basically, a hug, smile at the camera, I look compassionate, gun control, gun-free zones, and blank you. 617-266-6868. Let me ask you this. What do you make of the shooting down in Nashville, Tennessee, or the greater Nashville area, to be specific? 4 dead, 4 critically injured, another gun-free zone, and Jamal Shaw Jr. Should he at least have gotten free waffles for the rest of his life? 617-266-6868. The gunman is still out on the loose. How hard is it to find a naked guy in the greater Nashville area? Will liberals seize on this to push for even more gun control? Or, like me, do you think that this story and this narrative for the libs, it just doesn't seem to work? 617-266-6868. Your calls next.
You have to either react or you're gonna, fold.
Not if you're a police officer for Sheriff Israel in Broward County. No. They see a gunman and they just stay outside and do nothing. And then camera hog, David Hogg, goes on CNN and says, well, can you blame him? I mean, who wants to stare down an AR-15? So here is Jamal Shaw Jr., civilian, a patron, eating at the Waffle House, having a few pancakes, maybe some eggs on the side. And when Travis Reinking burst in naked into the Waffle House, shooting the place up, he didn't run, he acted. And he disarmed the shooter, and now the shooter is on the loose in the greater Nashville area. He has killed at least 4. He remains at large. And the question I have for you is this: will the liberal media seize upon this to continue their push to ban the AR-15? Or do the actions of Jamal Shaw Jr. and the fact that the Waffle House, again, was another gun-free zone, will this tear apart their narrative? Because they don't seem to be jumping all over this the way they were in Parkland. 617-266-6868. Lines are blazing. Jerry on the Cape. You're up first. Go ahead, Jerry. Comrade, how are you?
The phone. Hey, Kuhner, I got a little limerick for you. There once was a clown cuck named Zuck who spied and lied and had luck. He make lots of money, but it's no longer funny. His plan with Sotoro and Hillary run amok. That's the limerick. Jeff, I think you covered just about everything, but to your point about not being on the radar, what was wrong with the judge in this case after he was arrested at the White House? What was wrong with him when it's been alleged that he wanted to kill the president? What is wrong with these people when it comes to the Secret Service, the FBI, the ATF? Why wasn't he on their radar? And why didn't that judge say, no more guns for you for a while? You need a little time out. He goes through a diversion program, and they give him his guns back. And the kid comes from a pretty affluent family. It's not like he's destitute and desperate and everything. I think there's a lot more to this story, Jeff. And I think once it's revealed, I think it's going to be a little scary. But you know what else they mentioned that really bothered me? They had to throw this in there, Jeff, that he comes from a good Christian family. They had to throw that jab in there.
Oh, yeah, no, I know. And Jerry, thank you for that call. Look, if this guy happened to be Muslim, you would never hear about it. But, his parents happen to be Christian, and that's all the liberal media wants to talk about. No, I look at this and I see, here's a mentally ill man, was arrested for threatening the president of the United States, has his guns seized. They give him to his old man, the father. The father gives him back to him. And boom, what does he target? A gun-free zone. And now, literally, he's naked running around somewhere in Nashville. And had it not been for James Shaw Jr., I'm telling you, it wouldn't have been 4 dead. It would have been 24 dead. 617-266-6868. I just don't think the libs are going to get too much mileage out of this one. That's just my sense. Scott in Weymouth, you're up next. Go ahead, Scott.
Good afternoon, Jeff. I'm laughing. I'm telling you, I don't know which is greater, your talent for knowledge or your comedic talent. It's hysterical.
Thank you, Scott.
Welcome back, Jeff. Hope you had a good vacation.
I had a great, honestly, the best vacation of my life.
Awesome. And Michael did a good job filling in. He did.
Thank you.
He did. All right, yeah. Yet again, here we go again, which is my Twitter handle. Here we go. Yep. liberalism, this is beautifully illustrating what a mental disease liberalism is. It's amazing how the left mainstream media chooses their stories to promote their own agenda, their anti-constitutional agenda. It's amazing. Now, as for this Waffle House case, they'll get this dirtbag tonight. I'll bet you a bottle of beer. I'll meet you one day, I don't know, in the next year. They're going to get him by 6 p.m. tonight. You watch. They're going to get him. They're going to get him. And the guy
Scott, well, you think he'll be clothed or naked?
That's why I say you're hysterical. I believe before you went to break, you said, how can you not find a naked man running around Nashville? It's ridiculous. It's like, I mean, the kid, talk about, I mean, what is he on? I mean, I don't do drugs, but, I mean, you're talking, he's on a lot of, he's
well, apparently what I'm reading now, Scott, is he had fantasies about Taylor Swift. He was like one of these stalkers. He thought she was in love with him. I guess he looked at his body in the mirror and said, who can resist this body, right? And then apparently he also wanted to kill the president. So he thought by killing Trump, that would make him famous, and then Taylor Swift would fall in love with him.
It's unbelievable. Mentally sick, Obviously, he's a liberal. I'll bet you dollars to donuts, which is my favorite cliche. He voted for Hillary. Hillary over Trump, believe me. Just mentally sick people, Jeff,
I'm with you. No, I'm with you, Scott. Look, again, mental illness. Nobody wants to look at it. It's just guns, guns, guns. Okay, coming up next, the summit with North Korea. The Mad Midget, Little Rocket Man, makes an amazing concession. But is it really the concession he says it is? Big developments on North Korea. I'll discuss that. But first, a Senate panel will now consider Mike Pompeo's nomination for Secretary of State this evening. Evan Heidenrich is in the WRKO newsroom. He has all of those details. Take it away, Evan.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Okay, my friends, is peace in our time possible on the Korean Peninsula? So as you know, President Trump, along with his national security team, is now gearing up for a possible major summit, we'll see, with Little Rocket Man, Kim Jong-un. Rocket Man stunned the world late last week by announcing that he is going to be halting all nuclear and missile tests. The reason, according to him, is that now the nuclearization process has been completed. There is no need, he says, to do any more missile tests, any more nuclear energy tests. As far as he is concerned, the North Koreans have now perfected the cycle. They have about 10 nuclear bombs. As far as he's concerned, they wanted a nuclear arsenal. He claims they have achieved their nuclear arsenal. And so he is now telling the world, and especially President Trump, that before the summit they even meet, he is going to put a major concession on the table, which is from now on, we will no longer be testing our missiles or our nuclear weapons. Now, the question, though, is what should Trump do, and how significant is this revelation? Because according to the Wall Street Journal, Kim Jong-un, Little Rocket Man, still insists that North Korea will keep all of its nuclear weapons. He does not want them eliminated. He does not want them dismantled. And here is where the rubber hits the road. He can make all the symbolic gestures that he wants. In the end, when everything is said and done, my friends, Donald Trump, the president, along with John Bolton, his national security advisor, will not want anything less than the full denuclearization of North Korea. And my sense is that Kim Jong-un is not willing to give up his nuclear arsenal. And so as long as Kim remains committed to having nuclear weapons, I don't see how a deal can be reached in that summit. The only possible way out is for Trump to make a deal with China regarding North Korea. And essentially, I think what Trump would have to concede is this. We will fully recognize the North Korean communist regime. We will sign an international treaty vowing that we will never attack North Korea or seek regime change. South Korea will never seek to overthrow the North. China will guarantee North Korea's security. And in exchange for all of these concessions, North Korea must give up its nuclear weapons. Outside of a major international treaty that would guarantee the survival of the North Korean regime, I don't see how they can make a deal. Because President Trump himself has said his goal is the full denuclearization of the Stalinist hermit kingdom. And Kim Jong-un has said he will never give up his nuclear weapons. And here is now the standstill. This is now the fundamental showdown. Tomorrow, I'm going to be having Rand Paul on for a special newsmaker interview. Okay, it's going to be on at 1:05. And one of the many questions I'm going to ask him is, what advice would he give to the president on North Korea? And the point I'm going to make to the senator, and I'm going to reiterate this right now, is that ultimately, I believe the West bears some responsibility for what is taking place in North Korea. Look, don't get me wrong. I think the Mad Midget is a murderous Stalinist butcher. He is, to me, one of the worst despots and tyrants of our time. He systematically starves his own people. He threatens South Korea. He threatens to nuke Hawaii and Guam. He wants to hit the continental United States. Believe me, I could not care less for Little Rocket Man, and the sooner somebody puts him 6 feet in the ground, the better. However, this being said, I think we have to acknowledge one fundamental reality. When we forced Muammar Gaddafi to give up his weapons of mass destruction, remember the Bush administration, and Gaddafi did, and then under Obama, we still insisted on regime change, and we still bombed Libya and toppled Gaddafi from power. The signal that was sent to dictators all over the world is don't bother giving up your weapons of mass destruction. Because once you give up your weapons of mass destruction, that's when Uncle Sam and the West will topple you or bring your regime down. And so perversely, what one of the many dangerous consequences and repercussions of the illegal, unconstitutional war in Libya under Barack Hussein Obama. It didn't just empower radical Islam in Libya and destroyed Libya. As a state, it's collapsed. It led now to a mad rush by dictators like Kim Jong-un to speed up, intensify their efforts to get the bomb. Because the only reason why we have not bombed or tried to topple North Korea's Stalinist dictator is because he's sitting on 10 nuclear bombs. The fact that he has weapons of mass destruction is what guarantees his regime's survival. And so if I'm the president of the United States, the one thing I have to do, if I'm to get him to give up his weapons, is to make a deal that would guarantee his survival. And then the question is, do you want such a murderous madman to be living among us for many more decades to come? And can you trust the Mad Midget to really give up his weapons of mass destruction? And you know, as all of this is taking place, as now the rush and the momentum towards a summit seems almost inexorable, with Kim Jong-un now going on about wanting now to stop and halt nuclear testing and missile testing, you now have all of these pundits going on Fox, CNN, MSNBC. Everybody's an expert on what Trump should do with North Korea. And I thought the president was dead on when he said in one of his recent tweets, all of these people now lecturing me on what I need to do to make a deal are the same people that failed to make a deal for the last 30 years with North Korea. In other words, you guys have failed for 30 years. In fact, under your watch, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And let me tell you, even as I was vacationing in Aruba, there was the Kuhner man checking on Fox, checking on CNN, seeing what's going on. And of course, I heard about First Lady Barbara Bush passing away. And all the testimonials, and you see the pictures. And so there are the Clintons. There is, of course, the Bush clan. There are the Obamas. Everybody there is now with their condolences and best wishes. And I'm looking at every single one of them, and it's been going on now for 30 years. Bush 41 did nothing on North Korea. The Clintons, all they did was enabled and empowered North Korea. Bush 43, Jr., he allowed North Korea to get stronger and stronger. The dear leader turned a blind eye as the mad midget got stronger and stronger and basically became on the verge of becoming a nuclear power. And now under President Trump, he is here to clean the mess of 4 previous presidents and administrations. And they're lecturing him. They're telling him what he needs to do. He couldn't do any worse than what you guys have done. And none of you guys came even to the verge of a summit with this man. So what's obvious is that the massive economic pressure, the massive diplomatic pressure, the tough talk from Trump, and I think the big key factor, the fact that he's squeezing China and telling the Chinese, for once, take your pick. You want to keep backing this lunatic? Or do you want us to shut down your market and your access to the biggest market here in the United States? Take your pick. Take your pick. Do you want to continue to trade with the United States, which has benefited you tremendously? Or do you want to side with the mad midget? Because the mad midget, they don't even have electricity at night in North Korea. That's how poor they are. So either you want to continue to grow your economy with us, or you want to side with the mad midget. Either you put the squeeze on him, or I put the squeeze on you. And I believe that's the only reason why we're even talking about a summit. And so my question to you is this. Little Rocket Man now says he wants to stop all nuclear and missile testing. He's done. He's got his nukes. He's got his bombs. He doesn't need any more. Is this a major concession? And what should President Trump do to denuclearize North Korea? Or is it impossible? 617-266-6868. Is the summit meeting with Little Rocket Man mission impossible? Or can Trump succeed where everybody else has failed? I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. All of your calls. Next. 12:54 here on the great WRKO. Okay, the Kuhner man is back from his vacation, rested, refreshed, recharged, and yes, very tanned. Pretty much sunburnt and sunstroked, but hey, Aruba was, I highly recommend it. Best vacation I ever had. The kids loved it. Grace loved it. But anyway, let that go. Kim Jong-un, who can party like nobody else, is now on the verge of a summit with President Trump. And Little Rocket Man says, I've ended all nuclear and missile testing, but I will not give up my nuclear weapons. What should Trump do? Or should he not even bother with the summit? Let's go to Anthony in Michigan. You're up first. Go ahead, Anthony.
Dr. Kuhner, welcome back. It's good to have you back, sir.
Oh, it's great to be back.
Hey, you won't be on the air this Saturday the 28th, would you? A certain deplorable you may be talking to is going to be attending the Trump rally here in Michigan.
Oh, good for you, buddy.
I'd love to give you an on-air, but if you're not on the air, I can't.
Well, no matter what, at least let us know how it went.
Will do. Hey, on Kim Jong-un, what if it's none of the above? Let me explain. Imagine if you woke up tomorrow and your favorite Ferrari's in the garage, but it needs total restoration. You don't have the tools or the skill set to do it, so you sell it. I don't know if you followed what happened last September or last October. First, in late September, the submarine, the Jimmy Carter, came into port in Washington flying the Jolly Roger, which is a symbol that they came back from a strategic mission and they were victorious. What did they do? Their area of travels under the sea are around Korea, etc. Now, in October, I don't know if you heard, they had in North Korea, a tunnel collapse and took out 200 of their nuclear engineers. Did you know that? No, I did not know that. Oh, yes. And it was, let me see if I can find the name of the province here it happened at. Pungai test site. So the question is how did that happen? So, you ever hear of something called rods from God? No. It's supposed, imagine a javelin in high school made of tungsten from outer space. Jeff, we may have a weapon like that. What if we used it and took out those engineers? He could have the weapons, but he's got no one to do anything with them. So is he saving face coming to the table because he's got nothing anymore? Interesting. Anthony, really good call. Look, I gotta believe there's some covert action going on behind the scenes because you've never seen Rocket Man behave like this. And so if you can start rattling their underground facilities, if you can start taking out their engineers and their scientists, you're basically, you may have the physical bomb, but if you got nobody who knows how to operate it or use it, it's almost useless to you. So, look, there's no getting around this one fact. For 30 years, we did essentially nothing. We turned a blind eye on North Korea. Under Trump, he's been focused on it like a laser beam, and he's squeezing them and squeezing them and squeezing them. And the question is, will Rocket Man break like a grape? Will he just squeeze him until he pops like a grape? We're going to find out soon. Wally, you're up next. Go ahead, Wally.
Jeff, welcome back. It's nice to hear your voice again.
Thank you, Wally. Thank you so much.
I just want to bring up another point similar to what the last caller just brought up. No one's talking about, except for that last caller, the fact that their test site collapsed on itself because I don't know if it has to do with rod from God, but I'm more apt to believe that it had to do with the last test they did. The entire top of that mountain collapsed on itself, and it's leaking radiation into China, which is ticking them off to no end. But if he has no test facility or no facility left to actually build these things, and the other caller was right, over 200 people died, those engineers died. So if he has no infrastructure to build any new bombs, what does it matter to him that he's not going to test anymore? He can't. The whole mountain collapsed on itself.
Wally, so basically you're saying it's a meaningless concession, right? It's smoke and mirrors.
Exactly.
Wally, I've got a minute left. If you were Trump's advisor, what would you advise him? What would you tell him to do?
Nothing less than denuclearization of the whole peninsula.
So just go for the whole enchilada.
Absolutely. Why let a little tyrant have some of the biggest bombs in the world to threaten anyone he wants once everyone backs off? It took us over 6 months to get everything over there to be able to take them out if we needed to, if he launched anything. Once everyone goes away, it's going to take another 6 months for them to come back and they'll start negotiating again. It's what him, his dad, and his grandfather have been doing for years.
Wally, very good call. Thank you for that call. I missed you guys. Honestly, I really missed you guys. Okay, coming up next, Jeff Deal has a controversial new bill on federal funding of sanctuary cities, and the liberals are going nuts. Shania Twain apologizes. Should she?
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 100.7 WZLX HD2 Boston, an iHeart radio station.